Hi, my name is Zoe Carter and this is a video on how to make a watermelon puppet. Puppet making can be daunting the first time you do it, but if you follow it step by step, it's not as hard as it looks. It's just a case of knowing how. You will need the templates printed onto paper, a good amount of polyfill stuffing, ping pong balls and a Sharpie, big scissors and small scissors. I like to use nail scissors. Lawn strimmer cord, a glue gun and glue sticks. You will need gaffer tape. You will need something called mount board that you can get in art shops, a craft knife and cutting board, a pencil and a thinner pen, pins, needles, and the thread that matches your fabrics. Now here I've got a pink, a white, a black, a lighter green and a darker green. When I'm needing to use a template to make lots of the same shape, I like to transfer it onto thicker card first. So I find a cereal box very helpful for this. Now I'm just going to cut out this template from the paper. Like this. So I'm just going to cut down the side of the cereal box so that I can get into the unprinted side, which is easier to draw on. I'm going to get my template and draw around it. Onto the card. Like this. And then to cut out the cereal box into the right shape, like this. And I find that this creates a more sturdy shape to draw around however many pieces you need. Now, it's always best to try and keep it as much to the edge as possible so that way you can get more out of the fabric. So I can actually get 2 of these pieces out of one A4 square. So I'm now ready to cut the fabric out, and I find that something that is absolutely fundamental to this is having a good pair of scissors. So I like to keep a pair of scissors, especially for fabric, so that it doesn't get blunted by other materials. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. Now, the templates give you the information about how many pieces you need in what colours. Now, in terms of fabric, I prefer to use felt. I find felt very forgiving, and it has the combination of being flexible but also holding its shape and not tending to get so distorted. So that's my favourite. Now, this is piece A. As you can see, it's a kind of long pointed dome shape. Now, you need 8 of these on a darker green felt. Now, this is piece B. As you can see, it's very similar to piece A. It's just a bit shorter. Now, you need 2 of these. This is piece C. You need 2 of these in the same fabric. And this is piece D, and you need 1 of these in the same fabric. This is piece E in a lighter green or even yellow fabric if you like, and you need 20 of these. This is piece F. This is a larger circle in white felt. Now you need 2 of these. This is piece G. This is the smaller circle in pink felt, and you need 2 of these. This is piece H. Now this is a tiny seed shape, and I like to make 16 of these. Now, as you can see, the puppet is made of 2 separate halves which we join together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 half at a time. So we're going to start with the A pieces and the B pieces. I'm going to take 2 of the A pieces and lay them on top of each other. Like this. I want to sew one side from the top here to the corner, so down this seam. Now, this is something that you could do by machine or you could do by hand. I'm going to do it by hand because I find I have more control that way. So I'm just going to pin it. Then I'm going to get my darker thread and I'm going to sew a simple running stitch down the seam. And I find that the smaller the stitches, the stronger it is. So I'm going to do that all the way down this seam. So here is one I completed earlier. So because I just did the one seam, I can open it out like this. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to open it up and with the seam on the outside here, I'm then going to lay another piece inside. Now I'm going to show you what you do with part B because it's exactly the same as the A pieces. You lay it with the tip aligned to the underside. It's just that it doesn't come down as far, and this is to create the hole for your hand. Now I'm just going to pin this in place. So that I can sew down that seam. So as you can see, I've stitched together part B here, and that makes 3 panels. Now I want 5 panels altogether. So for the next piece, for the next A piece, I'm just going to do the same thing of with the seams on the outside, laying it on top and stitching along that seam. And then I would do the same for the 5th piece, and I would keep stitching until it becomes a 5-paneled dome like this. So this is the basis for the half of the watermelon. Now I'm just going to turn it inside out. Like this. Now we've cut out 20 of these pieces, so for 1/2 of the watermelon we need 10. To try and get these evenly spaced out, I like to divide the watermelon into each of its 5 panels and say that I'm going to stitch 2 on per panel. So I'm just going to lay this one about here and this one about here, and then stitch them on. This is a half I've stitched earlier, so you can see that on each panel here I've got 2 stitched on, and that way they're fairly even. It doesn't have to be exact because it's an organic product. So this is how we're going to make the puppet's innards here. Now I need my big white circle of felt. I need to lay the pink circle on top and pin it round and stitch it in place. And I need 8 of my seed shapes here and to stitch these on. So I find it helpful to think of the pink circle like a clock face. So I'm going to put my first seed at 12 o'clock. I'm going to put my next seed at 6 o'clock. My next one, 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Okay, and then I put the other 4 seeds in between, making sure that the pointy bits are pointing inwards to the middle of the circle, like this, and then I stitch those in place. Here is one I did earlier. Now that we've done these 2 pieces, we need to repeat the same process again. I need to take my 2 C pieces and my 1 D piece. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the pieces and I'm going to lay it on top of one end of the D piece. I'm going to take the other C piece and lay it on the other end, so there needs to be a gap in the middle, and then I'm going to sew the 2 C pieces on top in that position. So here is the one I did earlier where I've sewed right round these 2 seams. With my 2 halves of watermelon, this is going to come to the point where I'm now going to join them together. So I'm going to take each half and I'm going to turn it back inside out again. Like this. Okay. Now, this is the part where it gets a little trickier, so it might take a few attempts, but that's all right. So, with the half of the watermelon, the 4 part A panels are the longer ones, and you need to find the part B panel. Because it's shorter, it makes the opening for where your hand is going to go. You need to find the bottom of the part B piece. You need to get the part C piece and fold it back on itself and line it up with part B and then stitch them together. Okay, then you do a simple running stitch. Okay.
Right.
So on either side of this glove area, there are these 2 overlapping sections of the 2 A pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line it up next to the glove and I'm just going to stitch it in place. So I've done that on this side, and now I'm just going to do the same for the other side. So as you can see here on this first half of the watermelon, I've joined the bottom of panel B to panel C, and now I need to do the same for the other side. So I'm going to take the other half of the watermelon, find its panel B, so remember the shorter piece, and then join it to panel C. So I'm just going to pin it, and now I'm just going to stitch it along to make a seam. Now I'm just going to do the same thing again of lining up the overhanging edge against the glove and stitching it to it. Just going to seal that off. And then I'm going to do the same for the other side. Okay, so now these are the two pieces joined together. So as a guide as to what it should look like, it should sort of look like a kind of a large shape with the two glove pieces coming out like a duck beak. The next stage is to turn each side inside out. So I'm just going to take this side. On the one hand, oh, still got a pin in, and on this side for the other hand. As you can see from this finished product, this has a flat, hard surface inside, and how I've achieved that is to put a thick piece of cardboard underneath. So I'm going to cut out this template out of paper. Okay. I'm going to draw around it twice onto the mount board. Okay, and once you've drawn around it, you need to cut it out. Now, you could use a craft knife and cutting board, but I find that just with a good pair of scissors, I can generally do it. Okay, that's one circle. And two circles. Now, this next bit is a little tricky. So you need to take a line of strimmer cord, I would say about 1 meter or 3 feet. It doesn't matter too much. So what I'm trying to do here is to create a hem with this cord inside. So trying to get it even and take it bit by bit, I'm going to place it just inside the rim here, and then I'm going to fold it and sew it down. I'm just going to sew right up until I get to the glove section. So just a simple stitch around the edge to hold it in place, trying to keep it as even as I can and trapping the cord inside. So now I've taken the stitching right round to the glove itself. So I'm now in a better position to measure how much I need to make the circle. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to lay them on top of each other like this, and I'm just going to snip them so that there isn't really any overlap. And then once the two are ready to go, I'm going to get my gaffer tape and I'm going to hold them together and then just wrap the gaffer tape round. Okay, so that's my first ring, and now I need to do the same for the other side of the watermelon. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, now that the circle is complete, I'm just going to sew it in place by just making stitches over the top. So now I'm going to Now I'm going to repeat the same process for the other side of the watermelon. So now I've stitched a hem into both sides of the watermelon. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cardboard circle, and this is where the glue gun comes in. Now I'm just going to put my hand inside the glove to steady it. I'm going to push the glue onto the fabric here, giving it a good even spread. Like this, okay, and then I'm going to place the cardboard circle on, ensuring that it is within the line of the rim, and it should fit inside it just like that. And now I'm going to do the same for the other side. I'm just going to spread the hot glue all over. And then I'm going to stick the cardboard circle on, making sure that it is within the hem. Now that the cardboard is stuck on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it up, and I am going to fill one half of the watermelon with the polyfill stuffing. Making sure I've got it into all the crevices, like this, okay? And now with the cardboard pushed down, you need to take the circle of innards and you need to try and slot it underneath the strimmer line ring, underneath the hem there, and try and flatten it out. And then from that point you can stitch it on. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So there we are, I've done one half, and now I'm going to repeat the same for the other side. So now I'm just going to make the eyes. Now I'm going to get one ping pong ball, and I'm going to split it in two. Now, rather than cutting along the seam, I'm going to try and make the black part of the eye cover this lettering here. So I'm going to, this is where some really sharp nail scissors come in handy. I'm going to pierce the ping pong ball, and then I'm going to cut around it as evenly as I can. So now I have my two eyes here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a circle with my Sharpie here. Okay, and then I'm just going to colour over it. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same for the other eye. Okay, so now what I'm going to do once I've done that is I'm just going to pop a little bit of hot glue onto the eye. Careful not to burn yourself. Okay, and then I am going to pop it on to the fabric, and then I'm going to do the same for the other one. So there you have the finished watermelon.